Hello, everybody. How
Mm,
we doing today?
Morning, everybody.
Joe here.
Kevin.
Um, Interesting. The season two has been interesting so far. They completely blew up the show again,
Right.
which I'm glad because I did not want them to kind of rehash the first season.
Sure.
You know, um, so I don't know. Like, I still have no idea how they're gonna figure this all out.
Well, I mean, they're going to have to blow it up again, is what it's going to be.
I would imagine
Because,
they do it again. Yeah, for
right,
sure.
they have to. Because what you have going on right now is this loop where Michael keeps resetting his world and they keep figuring out that it's fake. And it feels like it's going to pick up the pace on them doing it
Yes.
because they're just not the same people
No,
they were the first time,
they're
right?
actually changed.
Right, exactly. Which is really great, right? The idea that even though their memories have been erased, they're just not taking them back to the beginning doesn't make them the same people. They've grown,
Yeah,
and so Eleanor,
I love that.
who is never dumb, is showing little shades of decency that are throwing them off. Right. The last episode we saw Chidi be really decisive for the first time. They tried to pin him with two women that he would never be able to pick between,
Yeah,
and he picked almost immediately,
he did.
which is way out of character for him
And poor
in season
Jason.
one. Yeah,
Jason really got the short straw.
but Jason, who hid the whole time the first time in misery and
Spoke up.
fear, spoke up and said, "I'm not doing this."
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where Tahani was. She I mean,
If anything, she was worse off.
well, I mean, at least
But
she was honest.
more honest.
She was more honest. Like, no,
Yes, yes.
I want the big house. I want the hot guy. That's who
Yeah.
I am. So, I mean, I do think that they all kind of grew, which means every time they reset, I'm assuming it gets harder and harder to pigeonhole him into what he's trying to do.
Well, that's where it gets interesting, right? It's the whole Michael dynamic.
Yeah.
Because he's actually afraid. Like, he's
Yeah.
afraid of his boss, and he's keeping this a secret from him.
And that's where it's going to blow up, right?
Yeah.
There is we talk about we mentioned the Groundhog Day aspect of it. There's a time limit on this though, and the time limit is Sean. Eventually, Sean's going to figure out this isn't working. Yeah, I mean, it really is.
No, it really is. But
Sean is the thing that's got Michael scared, right?
yeah, so
And I'm not sure how they resolve it.
so I was thinking about this week. I was wondering, so if Sean is really the big bad, right?
For
Say
this
the
season, he
Emperor
is right. Sure,
to Ted Danson's Darth Vader, which I can't believe I'm actually saying that.
right.
But for example, does Ted Danson stay the villain in the show the whole time? Do you think, anyways, or do you think that Michael is just going to be bad for the entire run?
I would be surprised if first off, it's Ted Danson who can do both, right?
Yeah.
Like a champ, but he's so charismatic. I don't think he stays the villain on the whole show.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how they get out of it. Maybe he learns that these aren't the worst people in the world and his whole idea is bad.
Well, I just think anytime somebody's like afraid of something, right? They're going to rebel against it in a show or movie,
right?
For the most part, anyways.
Well, I think you're right. I do think he's not going to stay the villain the whole time, but I think it's going to be more along the lines of the four dead people aren't going to be the only people that grow up a little bit on the show.
Yeah.
Right. I think that
he has some growth too.
I think that's what's going to happen with Michael. And I think eventually Michael's going to realize that this system, because I mean, that's something we figured out early on, right? As people watching the show, that this point system was ridiculous to begin with, right? This division the show asks of what makes a good person or a bad person is some of it's arbitrary, some of it's the luck of your birth and circumstances, right?
Yeah,
on what makes a good or bad person. Eleanor had no luck in that. Jason had no luck in that. So I think that's kind of where they go, and I think that Michael's going to kind of figure that out as well, right?
Well, he's already been interested in human activities already because we saw a little bit of that in the first season,
right? Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much of that was an act. Like, I just want to live among the people.
Well, he's using expressions and stuff, which shows some interest,
Yeah. But
it could have been a facade,
right? Everything before Michael's wicked laugh has to be taken as
BS.
As unreliable narrator.
Sure.
Like the rules they set up in his video at the beginning was like, well, we were basing what we thought of the characters, a lot of it on that, on you like, welcome to the good place. Watch this, introductory video. Now we have to take that video as like, yeah, completely. So Michael's an unreliable leader, completely thus far. So it's hard to say. I'm sure we'll get a lot of these answers, right?
I enjoy seeing him every episode. I love Ted Danson.
Well, I do too, and that's why I think it would be really weird if, for 3 more seasons, he's just the guy you're rooting against. Yeah, exactly. I don't see that happening, and again, the show's going to blow up probably several more times, and I really think that there's a twist there that Michael doesn't stay our villain. And that Sean kind of takes that place, and who knows? And maybe other characters, right?
I'm just spitballing here,
right? Well, I just think there's a path forward for Sean to take over that role. Right? Would you want to go ahead and welcome Yuval, Scarlett, me, and Eric G to our Patreon group. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, if you guys are watching this on YouTube for the first time, welcome to our channel. If you'd mind the like button for us, leave us a comment down below, and please hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on the new content we've coming your way.
If you'd like to see a full-length reaction to this and everything else we watched or are watching, please check out the link in the description below to our Patreon page. On every show, including The Good Place, we're at least 4 episodes ahead of where we are on YouTube. So if you get done watching the edits here on YouTube and want to keep going, Patreon is the way to go. You will absolutely have to sync and watch along on your own device's streaming service. You will only see and hear us due to copyright law. We're also doing 30 Rock right now as a Patreon exclusive.
So it's called Dance Dance
This
Resolution.
is Daily Notes log.
We have a dance off in here.
My neighborhood experiment.
Obviously, there's no way that's the
I know
case.
it will be. All the kinks have been worked out.
Are we going to get a
This is
Michael
the
episode? Oh my god, that was
Yourself,
awful.
You mean giraffe?
There we go.
Yeah.
Is one of these nerds like a teacher
There we
or a
go.
life coach or an Instagram fitness model or something?
So they're going to get together anyway.
Janet
This is
tells
great.
me you were a professor of some kind?
Yes, I was a professor of ethics and moral philosophy. Oh, I deserve to go. You guys can stay.
You're not.
No, I have to go. Well, then it's
Oh.
why should we do it?
Holy
She
fucking
figures it out anyway.
Every
Yeah.
time.
This isn't the good place. It's the bad place.
All right, cue the evil laugh. Yeah, well.
Ah, farts.
Yeah. So it's just going to pick up the pace. The
128
breaking
days.
it. Yeah.
All right. You think Michael learned subtlety?
Okay, attempt number 11.
I know.
bring you a 3-hour spoken word jazz opera.
She's a nice person that would even pretend to sit through this. Yeah.
No. No version of heaven for anyone would ever
Yeah,
include
I agree.
3
Yeah.
hours of
Thank you.
this.
Sorry, Janet. Gotta reboot you every time I start over.
Oh, I know. I'm not actually upset. It's just
We
the
might brought
automatic
this bit
fail-safe
yeah.
mechanism.
I bet Janet ends up being really big and helping him out
I hope
down the
so.
road too.
I
yeah.
love Janet. Janet's
Yeah.
my favorite character.
Attempt 108.
Wow. Yeah.
Analyze some recent data. Eleanor always seems to realize that they're in the bad.
Yeah, Sean's-
Yeah. It's always. Are they going back to the medium place? That's
But I
funny.
can't believe you and I ended up in the same place.
Hey, I'm not thrilled about it either, bud. I always assumed the afterlife was full of cool people.
So is Michael just going to reset it when he realizes they're gone?
Unless they just fake it. Why don't
Yeah.
they just fake it?
Yeah, guys, I know. You've been here 15 times already. What?
know what's
Oh,
gonna
whoa.
happen to us, but I need to tell you something. I love you.
I love you too.
I did not see this coming.
Oh.
Very funny, but that's obviously not real.
Oh, that's real, baby.
I've only ever said I love you to 2 men my entire
Mindy
life.
is crazy.
Yeah.
Guys, we basically just met each other.
No, Eleanor. You guys have known each other a really long time.
So I like how the reboot doesn't work for her.
Right.
She's truly in a place of her own.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah.
I am taking this with me.
Oh no, it's my only copy. Don't.
I'm trapped.
You're saying a lot of words right now, and I only know some of them.
You know, that inane story actually contains a bit of good advice. Thank you, Jason. New best friends?
Okay. That
Right.
makes a lot of
Every
sense
time-
for yeah,
Every time they end an episode, it's always like at the peak. You know what I mean?
for sure.
It's a great way to keep you watching.
Yeah, I really felt like that's the natural place for this to go, right? It's not just Sean that's going to be the problem. It's going to be all of the other members, I guess, of the community of the neighborhood.
You can't blame them.
No,
They did it 800 times.
I would have gotten tired of that.
It's
too.
like, we're not doing this.
Obviously, my boss doesn't know what he's doing if we fail 800 straight times at our job.
Literally, I'm like, I'm phoning it in this time, guys.
Right. But yeah, it sort of the alliance makes sense, right?
Mm.
The only way that Michael is going to survive those people and Sean is to work together with these 4.
Also,
I don't know how they pull that off.
in the 800 attempts that they've tried, Sean hasn't been back. You know?
I guess they haven't gotten to the point where they needed the judge.
I guess so. Yeah. That's still. So I kind of predicted that at the very beginning of the episode. I wonder where it's gonna go. They're just gonna keep
Sure.
baking it so everybody else there thinks that it's working.
Honestly, I'd say maybe for an episode or two. But
Yeah.
this show.
Yeah, this episode was a lot.
They'll do it for an episode or two. I assume at some point Sean's going to find out that's what they're doing, and Sean's going to be a bigger problem. I think we're probably going to get more Sean down the road.
I hope so.
And I think you're right when you said he's going to be the big bad. I think that's an apt description for it.
Well, we're handling this in the second episode of season 2. It's like
already
they must have some sort of plan.
Of course, this show's been very, very perfectly
Very thought out,
plotted out from the beginning for sure.
You know what this episode kind of reminded me of? The end of 22 Jump Street, when they do the montage of all the sequels they could make to that movie.
I never saw 22 Jump Street.
You never saw that? Oh, great watch. Anyways, but it's basically just like all these possibilities they could have happen.
Sure.
And it's really interesting to see that. I mean, I did not expect this at all.
Sure.
800 tries, 800 different tries,
Yeah.
and they find out every time. And the Eleanor and Chidi thing, did not see that. I mean, I thought maybe I saw that coming down the road,
Right.
but I don't know. They kind of hinted at it.
Yeah. Again, it's one of those things that it may be coming and it also may not,
Yeah, right?
Because it happened, but it didn't happen. It's in that weird gray area.
Yeah, it's like there's so many different types of possibilities that could happen between any of them, really. I mean, it could be Tahani
Sure.
and Chidi.
I mean, I think you're right. I think it's coming. I think we've known it's coming. I think the show's playing with that. Oh, you guys are obviously aware from square one that these two are probably going to end up falling for each other. Well, let's just blow past it and say they did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
I think this show knows what our expectations are.
Yeah.
And plays with them. It's like the guy coming in saying, I found a loophole. Our expectations were always a loophole was going to keep them out of the bad place.
Yeah.
Without us knowing they're in the bad place. So again, the same thing. Oh, you guys are, very well aware that in the trope, these two are going to be together.
Mhm.
Well, it happened and we moved on. My opinion. That, like, anything that I keep thinking of that, like, here's the logical path this is going to go. These showrunners are 9 steps ahead of me, have already thought that that's what I'm going to think, and are going to throw it in my face a little bit, which is what they've done each time, which makes it great.
them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. 100%.
They blew the show up in the first season. And,
Yeah.
and just as you think you can have the show figured out after that, they're like, you have no idea.
Yeah, and that's what's great about it is they know where you think the show's going, and then they just completely do a 180. You think it's going here? Well, guess what? Not only is it not going there, but we're going to make fun of you a little bit for thinking it's going there. And I think Chidi and Eleanor being together is one of those, oh, you think we're going to have a big moment where they fall in love? We're just going to be like, well, obviously that happened at some point in all of this. Moving on.
It's like a multiverse kind of
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, it really is. And I think it's great. I think that wherever they think we're going next is like, well, now Michael is going to be friends with these 4. That may blow up in our faces too because they know that we're expecting it. And this is a show that will mess with our expectations.
And I found out recently last week that one of the writers in the show, he wrote for Succession. Oh my gosh, I forget the other show he wrote for, but he just won an Oscar for American Fiction. Makes sense.
There's clearly incredibly talented people writing this show.
It makes so much sense.
Yeah.
This is such a complicated story to juggle, and kudos to everybody involved because this is so engaging.
Wouldn't this have been a great writing room to be in?
Oh my
Sitting
gosh.
there like, here's our storyboard. Now let's get there. Let's write the beats.
You need some yarn to kind of connect everything.
I mean,
together.
really, yeah. It's
Some
like this.
aspirin.
I'm sure there was a lot of wait, what?
Yeah.
When they were kind of putting the story together, like
go back again, focus up here. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like they had the whole thing. Like, I don't know where the show ends up at the end of season 4.
Yeah.
But I feel like they had that. Even if they didn't know how many seasons it was going to go, this is where we end up. Here's where we start.
Yeah.
Here's where we end up. Here's a general sense of how we get there. Let's get to writing,
I wonder if that's a common thing for most shows. It's like, we don't know how many seasons it's going to go, but we know how it's going to start. We know how it's going to end.
I think only the best shows. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, look at the shows that just drone on and on past whatever made them shows in the first place.
Yeah.
This is like the anti-Dexter. You know what I mean? I loved Dexter for 4 seasons, and then it became unwatchable because one more.
Right?
One more. Yeah. Yes. And she's like, one more. And it's like, stop with the one more. You've run out of gas.
No one to stop.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think every show does that. We're almost done with Maisel. I feel like Maisel clearly had that sense,
Yeah.
Vince Gilligan's shows clearly have that sense of when to start, when to finish, and how to get there.
I think 4 to 6 seasons is the sweet spot, honestly.
For sure. I mean, it really depends. I mean, Ted Lasso being 3 was the right amount.
And Mad Men goes for 7, which we're in season 6 right now, but
Right.
I mean, I have faith in it.
Yeah, exactly.
West Wing 7.
I mean, every story's different.
Sure.
But you're right. Like, obviously, The Office went a couple of seasons too long.
Yeah.
As much as I liked it until it did.
Just 9 seasons. It's hard to stay fresh for 9 seasons of something.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, I've never watched it, and I never will. But Grey's Anatomy's been on for 20 now?
Yeah.
It's still got a big audience. The Simpsons is still going strong after 30-something years. You know,
True. It's rare.
it just
It's rare, yeah.
it just depends on the show. It depends on who's writing it, what it's doing. You know,
This you still have something to say after 10 years.
Exactly. I feel like this is a show that, like, we know we've got a strong narrative through line, and this is the amount of time we need to tell it right.
Sure.
Gilligan had a strong sense of how long he wanted Breaking Bad to be, and he said, we're going to do this Better Call Saul show. By the time they worked out what it was, it's going to take a season longer to tell that particular story. You know, I just think good showrunners know what they're doing start to finish.
Yeah.
Maisel obviously was supposed to be 6. The studio came back and said, we're spending a lot of money on this. We need to cut it down to 5. And they said, okay, we can make that work. And they have, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's do you have the people that are running the show and writing the show and producing the show that really know what they're doing as far as telling a story? And these guys are at the top of the craft right here, man.
So
Absolutely.
capable. Yeah.
I have, like I said, I don't know where the show's going. We've been wrong every step of the way, and we will continue to be wrong.
Every time we predict something, that show's kind of like, well, sort of.
Yeah. Well, they just know here's where your mind's going to go as far as where you think the story's going. So we're going to slap you in the face and take it a different direction. Right. No. Yeah. And they do it perfectly. And even though we're going to be wrong and continue to be wrong on this show, I have the utmost faith in the people that are putting it together.
Me too.
What a great show! I cannot believe I've never watched it before.
Yeah.
All right. We'll catch you in the next one, guys.